A case that will decide which candidates South Carolinians see on their ballots next year now rests with the state's highest court.
It's the latest challenge stemming from South Carolina's last redistricting cycle, which happens every 10 years after the U.S. Census. State House reporter Mary Green was in court today and has the details.
Last year, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with the state's Republican leaders in a challenge over whether South Carolina's congressional map was racially gerrymandered. The question that is now before the state Supreme Court is whether that same map was politically gerrymandered in violation of South Carolina's Constitution.
Instead of providing every qualified elector with an equal right to elect officers, respondents instead carefully engineered the Congressional redistricting plan to dilute the influence of Democratic voters and to entrench for themselves an artificial political advantage in that district.
The League of Women Voters of South Carolina is challenging this map, which determines who represents every South Carolinian in the U.S. House of Representatives. State lawmakers have testified that these lines, particularly between the state's 1st District in red, now held by Republican Nancy Mace, and the 6th District in blue, held by Democrat Jim Clyburn, were drawn this way to keep Republicans' control over the coastal 1st District, Mace's, which had previously been much closer to a swing district. The League of Women Voters claims that partisan gerrymandering violates the state constitution, and it's asking the Supreme Court to force the General Assembly to redraw the map.
What I hear you saying is that you're asking us to take it upon ourselves to decree who gets political power.
But attorneys for South Carolina's Republican leaders claim not only is this partisan gerrymandering legal, but that the Supreme Court doesn't have the authority to even wade into this issue.
It is for the people to ultimately change it if they desire. It is not for the courts to do it on its own accord.
Yes, redistricting is assigned in the first instance to the General Assembly, but that does not make this court powerless to intervene when the General Assembly uses that authority to run roughshod over the representative democracy that is both created and protected by our state constitution.
And the state argues if the court strikes down this map, there's no clear standard for how it should legally be redrawn.
It is asking the court to call balls and strikes without a strike zone.
Now, there's no timeline for justices to rule in this case. However, the map determines who can run in each district, and filing for candidates for South Carolina's next election for the U.S. House of Representatives opens next March.